Okay, this is part 5 of our teaching that we're doing on Is the Rapture True? And of course, I'd like to say real quickly again that, of course, the rapture is true. It's in the scriptures, even though you won't find the word rapture in our English translations. But the event itself is described very well throughout the scriptures, and we've talked about those, a few of those anyway, in my previous videos. In our last video, we talked about the day of the Lord, or the day of Yahuwah. And we talked about the fact is that this day is a day of darkness and gloominess, as the scripture says. When you have the time, read Isaiah chapter 13, or his name in Hebrew, Isaiah is Yahu. But read in Isaiah 13 and about the day of the Lord. And you'll see that it is described as a very dark day for the earth. One thing I wanted to clarify in this particular video is that the rapture and the day of the Lord are not the same event. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, even though they're very well connected, I believe. But I also believe that the rapture must precede, go before the day of the Lord, or the day of Yahuwah. I do believe, I know there are a lot of people, well, I say a lot of people, there are people who believe that there's maybe a gap or a time frame from the rapture before the day of Yahuwah, or Daniel's 70th week, or the tribulation period starts. But I believe that this 7-year time frame will begin right after the rapture, and I'll explain why later. But that's what I believe as far as when the actual day of Yahuwah will begin. We're going to talk. So I want you today to go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and I'll quickly mention this. Of course, in chapter 4, Paul was writing about the rapture in verses 13 down through verse 18. The last verse, in verse 18, Paul said, "Wherefore comfort one another with these words." The rapture, if the church or the true believers were to go through the rapture, there would be no comfort in that, knowing that. The comfort comes from the fact is that as he reveals that we have not been appointed to Yahuwah's wrath. I mentioned in our last session that this day of Yahuwah comes upon the unbelievers who have rejected the Messiah, who are ungodly, and this time is a time frame of judgment. But because those that have received the Messiah, the Mashiach, we have already been made righteous according to the scriptures. Now, when I say the word righteous, doesn't mean that we always do everything right, or that we never sin, or that we never miss it. I'm not saying that, but I am saying, as far as Yahuwah is concerned, we are righteous in his sight because it's his righteousness that he's imputed to us. We are the righteousness of Messiah in him. In Messiah, we are as righteous. In fact, the moment that you got born again by the Spirit, by the Ruach, is you will never become more righteous than you are at that time frame, because it's an event that changes your nature. I've shared this in the past, but Ephesians chapter 2 says, "We were by nature children of wrath, even as others." A sinner sins because it's his nature to act that way. But once you are born again of the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart spirit, your nature is changed. Now, I'm not talking about your flesh. The flesh, that's why we're waiting for the adoption to be complete, the redemption of our body. Our bodies need to be changed. Our body is it's still in its fallen state, in its weakness. That's why your flesh, you're subject still to miss it, to sin, to do things that aren't right. But in the realm of the Ruach, in the realm of the Spirit, Yahuwah, he sees us as righteous because we've received the Ruach of the Spirit of the Messiah. Romans chapter 8, verse 11 proves this out. that if any man have not the spirit of Messiah, he's none of his. This is what caused you to be born into his family. You're his child, and that's a forever settled fact. I'm his child because my nature has been changed. Like I said, it doesn't mean that I do everything right all the time, but it does mean that I'm righteous as far as he's concerned, and he's just waiting for the adoption to be complete, where he's going to redeem my body. And that's what the rapture is all about. It's about redemption of our bodies. Now, again, I want to try to read these verses before it gets too long in this video. But 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, Paul says, and keep in mind, he just talked about the rapture in verses 13 through 18 in the previous chapter. And then he says, of course, there was never any division of the chapters in the original text. So this letter was just written, without these interruptions here, or these changes of chapters. And but he says, but of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord, or again, the day of Yahuwah, so comes as a thief in the night. Now, it's important to understand, again, there is a difference between the rapture and the day of the Lord. The rapture is different in the fact the purpose of the rapture is to remove you before the day of the Lord starts, before it begins. Because the purpose of the day of the Lord is about judgment. It's judgment upon an unbelieving world that has rejected the Messiah. It's also about the day of Jacob's trouble, or Israel's trouble. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, so it's a time frame about Israel's trouble. And that's because they have not recognized who their Messiah or their Mashiach is. In Hosea chapter 5, the Messiah, of course, this is speaking of the Mashiach, of the Messiah. It says in Hosea chapter 5, verse 15, it says, I will go and return to my place until they acknowledge their offense. And this is, of course, talking about the nation of Israel. Until they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. And of course, this is really talking about this time frame of Jacob's trouble. That in their affliction, that affliction is the day of Yahuwah, and also as the time of Jacob's trouble, where 21 judgments are going to be fallen upon the earth. And before all this happens, the church will be removed, because we have not been appointed to Yahuwah's wrath, but to obtain salvation and deliverance, because we have received the Messiah, and we are righteous in the sight of our Father because of that. The scripture says Abraham believed Yahuwah, and it was appointed to him for righteous. Yahuwah accounted Abraham as righteous because of his faith. And that applies to you and I as believers, because without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he that comes to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And because you have received him, and of course I'm talking about believers here, if you have received him, then Yahuwah sees you as righteous, and so you have not been appointed to this day. I do want to encourage you to listen to the next video I'm going to be doing, because I'm going to go in more detail about this day of Yahuwah and the difference between that and the rapture. So I want to stop here now, because I don't like to do long videos. I want to do them short so people listen to them. So we'll pick this up, though, in the next video that I do. So, again, please like the video, please share it with others, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks again. Shalom.